There we are. We're live.
We are live. Woohoo! Yeah. Hello, welcome. I guess we will do our introductions again. I'm Jen. I publish under JM Guilfoyle, and you are?
I'm Ansley Ash, and despite what we told you last week about like this was not going to be a regular thing, oops.
We lie. We do that a lot. We lie.
It's not so much lying as like we didn't realize how much fun we were going to have, and we just can't stop. So
That's it. We just can't stop. We have too much fun together. And we promise that this time we're going to make it shorter. We're going to have like one topic and we're just going to talk about like one thing for each of us, right? Like, and today we are going to talk about character inspiration because I feel like I thought this was a great idea to talk about because I feel like a lot of people think that like poof, like characters just come out of nowhere for authors. Um, and maybe that's true, but usually not. There's always something that inspires us, right? So, like, I don't know. What's your take on it, Ansley?
so sometimes it's like a situation that I have in real life, but yeah, there's always something in there. There's either an emotional connection or a visual connection, or sometimes a little of each. Ugh. Okay, I hope I don't get interrupted. We're still fixing the internet connection at my house, so like fingers crossed for me, people.
Yes. So, I mean, like, and this comes up like all the time because, like, when we were at Capricorn, me and Gwen, a couple weeks ago, like, there's a lot of talk of like how you build like your world, how you craft your world, and I think that when it comes to people who are consuming the media, they may not understand what goes into like the media that people create, whether it's like art or if it's like writing or if it's like a TV show or movie or whatever. Because I actually am going to be writing an article soon because I just finished a rewatch of season 1 of Arrow, and I'm like, God, this is like Batman but like reskinned. And I found an official DC Comics website. Essentially, they said that the very original Green Arrow is a reskin of Batman. It was just a clone.
Yeah,
I,
don't you just love when you find that, like, because like you think it and then you go find out, like, unbeknownst to you, like, and you'd caught it and you're like, gotcha,
like it
gotcha.
totally was. So, do you want to go through like your character first and your character
Sure.
inspiration?
So today we're going to talk about. So this is my one of these days. So this is a giveaway. There's the QR code. Let's see if I can get it. There's the QR code if you want to do it. I'm going to read you a little bit from it. This story, the big intersection. We're talking about inspiration. So what happened? So this scene that I'm getting ready to read you. It's really short. This is a little bit like what happened, and I knew who my characters were, partly because I had already written Allison, who we'll see in here, but I'm going to talk about Justine today. And it's kind of an interaction between me and my oldest child. And from there, I knew everything about this story. So, like, the story was there by the time I drove home. Okay. So, the title of the book is The Big Intersection. And this is The Red Light from chapter 1. Stretching laboriously through a valley in the Blue Ridge Mountains, following the banks of a river, the small city of Blue Ash quietly bustled around the college, the pulp mill, and old furniture factory turned tourist trap. The town had never really given a fig what the world thought of it, and didn't today as the late summer afternoon sun beat down on a black BMW convertible. By the way, mine was a Saab, not a BMW. The roof was up, AC on full Arctic blast, for the sole purpose of keeping peace between a mother and her 17-year-old daughter. Get those ridiculous boots off my dashboard, Allison said to Justine. These combat boots are easily the cutest thing I own, Justine complied with a mischievous wink. They have 4-inch heels, but they look great. You look like a badly drawn anime. A
Hey, I take
well-drawn
offense to that.
anime. No, no, no. A well-drawn anime, mother. A well-drawn anime. And so these are these are the boots that my kid was wearing and putting them up and getting dirt and grime all over my convertible dashboard. We were having this discussion, and there's a blue car later on in this scene, and the car is and we're stuck behind that blue car, and it just won't turn at the stoplight, and so that's where we're having this discussion. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if the guy was dead? So of course I came home and wrote a story about a guy who was dead at a stoplight. So those are the genes, and then you see the genes on the cover. That is the actual child, and these actual genes will push. Like I don't know if you can see, they're ripped. They're
Oh
ripped.
yeah, they've
Oh,
got, yeah.
yeah, they've got all the rips. You can see them better in the thing, but that is the inspiration for that. I kind of had the whole story. I had written Allison when she was in college many, many years before, and had kind of sunsetted the character because I didn't really know what to do with her. And all of a sudden, like, but I knew that she was going to get married, who she was going to get married to, that she's going to have the kid, that the kid's dad was going to be dead, why he was going to be dead. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a discussion Allison and Justine are going to be having, and this is who this kid has turned into. And I knew the whole story, and I came home and I wrote it, and it's about 20,000 words. So
So it's like
that is kind
a lot of your inspiration came from real life.
it did. Well, in this particular case, it came from real life. Like my kid is so into manga and anime, and I need to stop touching my keyboard. Manga, anime, kind of as a teenager, dressed that way, a little bit punk, a little bit manga, a little bit, all of this stuff. So yeah, so it does come from real life, or it comes from real emotional situations, or it comes from like a real visual. And in this particular case, for this particular story, it all coalesced all around at once.
Mhm.
That's just what happened. Okay, I don't know what's going on here.
Your
Like go,
keyboard really hates you. Like, I don't know what's going on either.
well, but it's not touching anything.
Where
Right, we
and, like I find it interesting because like I know so many authors who have gotten like inspiration from, let's say, like real life, or like their dreams or something. I don't want to say like lucid dreaming, but like I know like our the head of our like writing group, like the Tim at the writers training, like he has gotten a lot of, especially short story inspiration from like dreams, and he'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm like to me, like this floors me, right? Because like that is like literally, I'm sorry if I hit the mic and y'all heard that. Like that floors me because like I mean, like I can understand real life, like in real life situations. I don't tend to take too much from real life, but like I do find that fascinating. And obviously, like your daughter, you live with your daughter and everything, like she knows about this and she's like cool with it. Right? Yeah.
yeah, this child is also the art directors, because like they have tons and tons of like artistic friends. So like whenever I need art for anything, the kid is like, let me see which friend is like the vibe for this, and then goes picks out an artist, and then I pay them.
Yeah.
Um, and I get problems because like I pay them more than what they're asking for, and I'm like, look, you got to ask what you're worth, and like you're worth way more than what I can afford to pay you, but like take the pay raise and don't feel guilty. Um, I get it from real life, but I get them from some other places. Like sometimes it's just a visual, sometimes it's just I seriously don't know what's going on. I'm like, can I put the batteries out? I'm just gonna
Remember
take the
when I
batteries
said we were like the disaster twins, and like,
out. You know.
by the way, if you're all still watching, drop a comment or leave a comment when we post this video to our Substacks or on YouTube or whatever, because we're looking for a name, because if we're going to do this all the time, we need a name. And I said disaster twins, but that's probably not the best name, because first of all, that has nothing book related in it. But second of all, it's also from the TMNT fandom, so
Okay, I've taken the
But
batteries out of that.
it's becoming
This
disaster
is
twins.
becoming a disaster. Like, what the heck is this?
I'm just saying. So okay, so like while you're trying to figure that out, I mean, like, so I don't have a visual of anything that I'm currently working on, which like my serial or whatever. I mean, like I'm not talking about any of my previously published stuff. Just because that's the character I picked is something relevant to right now. So I picked Tim Griffin from my current serial, which is Shutdown Syntax, which is
No,
chapter
I
four
love
is
him.
coming up. What?
I love him. I
I
love
love him
him.
too. I adore him. Um, and chapter four is going up this Friday. I just wrote a short story within the world again. I'm excited that's going to go out next week. So I chose him because A, he's relevant. It's what I'm currently working on and publishing, and he was fresh in my mind, right? So if you saw my article that went out today, it was fan fiction as a professional writer. And I bring this up because those who don't know me know that I started in fan fiction, and I'm a huge proponent of fan fiction. And if you are subscribed to me, you should go read the article because it was not just me. I was on a panel with four other people talking about fan fiction as a professional writer. It was probably like one of the most positive panel experiences ever. And like we all came
Fan
away with it.
fiction. Yeah, I just want to say I don't write fan fiction. I don't know. I didn't play with dolls as a child either because I found them confining. But whatever. I'm strange. Um, but I will say, I think fan fiction is fantastic. I read tons of it. Um, sorry about my Chewy. Just a squirrel. We are disastrous. Should have given
We
him
are
something to.
disasters. I'm telling you, we are disaster twins right now. As you
I
see,
think
like
fan
the
fiction is
drafter behind.
fantastic. I know. And tons of fan fiction is amazing. I know it gets a bad rap sometimes, but
Yeah,
really honestly, go try Chewy, come here. Come here. It's gonna bring the wrong dog, by the way.
yeah, that's fine.
There we go.
You're saying tons of fan fiction is what?
Tons of fan fiction is totally amazing. I just absolutely love fan fiction. They fans sometimes have insights into characters, and they put their own like little love, like they love the characters. I think more than sometimes the creators do. So I think fan fiction is kind of amazing that way.
Actually, do you want to hear? So this is a cool story, and this was something that was not in the article that I put out today. That was about our panel, and kind of it had a lot of the discussion that we had in the panel in it. But one of the authors that was there, I think it was Cecilia Tan, mentioned she has like a fairly long running series. I don't remember what book number she's on, but she actually found that people are writing fan fiction about her books. And so, like, one of the questions that was brought up, which I couldn't really answer to because like I don't have like enough fans out there that they're writing fan fiction about my work. Um, was essentially like would you read people's fan fiction of your work? And so Cecilia went on and was talking about how, and I'm pretty sure it was Cecilia, was how not only did she read the fan fiction, she ended up reaching out to several of the fanfic authors and ended up doing a like short story. I don't want to say like contest because I think she'd already read them and she reached out to specific authors, but she like essentially did a short story anthology where they wrote officially in her world in her series and she published it, which
Wow.
I thought was really really cool, right? Like because she saw in these authors like minds and like how they were presenting their characters, stuff that was like spot on about her characters. Like the characterization was great, and like they were just like enriching the world so much that she had already built. So I thought that was fantastic. So, but like I bring it up because Tim Griffin is, if you've watched the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie,
I have.
um, you have.
I have because my kids, of course, went through their Pokemon phase. I mean, my kids are a little older than your kids, but they did go through their Pokemon phase, and we did watch.
I
Such
would turn my
nostalgia.
camera and show you. I have the Detective Pikachu Japanese poster right there. Okay, but so like I have an intense adoration for Justice Smith as an actor, and he was the character. He was the actor who played Tim Goodman in the movie. And what struck me, I've written many fan fiction about characters that he's been. So I wrote a 70,000 word, which is a full novel Pokemon Detective Pikachu sequel, essentially. And I have a second one. Um, I've written fanfic about his other characters, but like what I particularly loved about his character was that first of all, we had a like essentially a new adult, right? Like he was an adult, but he was struggling, like he was stuck in life and unable to move forward because of like a tragedy from when he was younger, which really struck me as like a character you don't see often, um
But
particularly
what?
in that time.
But experiences that happen frequently in real life.
Yes, exactly, but I felt like because it was limited as a kinda kids movie, like there was like you couldn't explore some of it. So like I kind of explored it in my fanfic, but then like when I was like looking at it, I'm like, a lot of my original fiction comes from fan fiction ideas. And it's not a reskin. Like, I don't just reskin and be like, boom, here you go. Like, it ends up becoming its own thing. Like, I take bits and pieces from my fanfic and I re roll them and I expand them even further. So, my Tim Griffin, in place of being in a small town and a dead end job, he maybe doesn't consider it dead end. He actually enjoys what he does in Emberfield. He's watched all these people like move on. They go, to bigger cities. Um they worked, they've got like college degrees and they're going into like higher, and like he knows that he can do it, but he doesn't want to. And I think that's something that doesn't get explored often, is that there are a lot of people who don't want those manager jobs. They're happy being a technician or whatever. Like they want to do their 9 to 5 and then go home and watch TV, play video games, and be happy. And Tim Griffin, as it is, like the way I imagine him, so he started out as really like the Tim Goodman type character from Detective Pikachu, has morphed. And like, yes, he is capable of those things. He is incredibly smart. He could go very far in like tech companies and whatever in my shutdown syntax world. He doesn't want to. He wants to be home with his grandmother. He loves his grandmother. He is still estranged from his father, similar to the Tim Goodman in Detective Pikachu. But he likes where he's at in life, and he's kind of resentful of the people who are like, well, but you should do more. And so I have that tendency to like gather a lot of inspiration from the characters that I see that I wish we would see more of in media. um
That makes total sense.
yeah.
It makes it makes total sense because some people are processing, like I'm processing IRL stuff, and I'm like, ooh, that would be interesting as a story. I'm really very connected to story. I am very connected to story. So
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. I don't like building other people's world. Like I feel like I'm playing in other people's worlds, right? Like I am a huge Star Trek fan, and when my husband, yeah, it's huge. Like all three of my kids have Star Trek names. Like as part is either their first or their middle name, or yeah.
I did
So
not make that connection until you said that, though. Did not make that connection.
they do. And
It
then the
makes sense
oldest
now.
child, yeah, no, but we do. So when my husband and I first started dating, we were in college. He was writing Star Trek fanfic, so like I was helping, like familiar with the story, and I was trying to help him out. And like he would have good ideas, but like I would need to wander off in all of these other strange directions. Um, and for him, the sciencey part of Star Trek was like the part that was really interesting, and so he would want to do research into that or whatever. Anyway, we were trying to co-author, and it fell apart because like we could not really agree on how to form like a cohesive story. Like the emotional components, and I would push things in other ways, and I was more interested in like our original my OCs. Um, and he's like, no, I want more canon characters. And so we had like a small disagreement about that, and we just realized we're too incompatible to do it. But we do still love Star Trek together. Like watching Star Trek is still fabulous. So like it was more fabulous to watch Star Trek together than to write Star Trek together. But I kind of understand what you're saying, right? Because like I would go into the Star Trek world and I was like, well, these characters and those characters are so iconic. They're so iconic. Like even like Gowron, right? Like doesn't make that many appearances,
Yeah.
but like he is so memorable. And like, they're just so memorable. They're so well acted, they're so well thought out, they're so well imagined. So like they're really well done, and I like to play in those worlds. But yeah, I can totally understand why you would say like what Reg Barkley I think is like the perfect example of like, because that he is so ADHD, and
And the
it
high
took,
anxiety and
and the high anxiety and whatever. And I love the Don Quixote quality of Reg, where we get to go inside his head and like see. And I like,
but I
yes, more
also
of it.
love that they eventually redeemed him as I don't want to say redeemed. Like I feel like they did a disservice to that character in Next Gen, but then in Voyager, they redeemed themselves by making him a massive part of how Voyager came home, right? Like
They did.
because there was like a lot of fan love for him.
Yes, and I did feel like they brought him back like 3 or 4 in next gen 3 or 4 too many times, right?
Yeah.
And like those particular writers had written themselves into a wall, and like I think he just needed a breath of fresh air, which is
Yeah.
where I think people who get inspiration from fanfic, they're like, I'm a breath of fresh air. Like I don't see this. This is exactly what I hear you saying, and I did think so. Like, yeah, and only fans are gonna love. Like, I don't think creators can love their things the way fans do. Once you put your stuff out in the world, fans are the ones who love it, and you
Well, and
don't.
I think
Like,
I
I
do think it's interesting because like when you have like such a long running series like something like Star Trek or Stargate or Star Wars, you
all
the
the stars.
you can tell the properties that do it well, that have creators and writers in the writer room that care for the characters but also know the characters, right? Because like I have read plenty of, let's say, Star Trek official novels that I feel like the characterization of these beloved well-known characters is because I feel like they're not necessarily people who know these characters like the fans do, right? Like, and then you go into like AO3 and you read fanfic, you're like, boom, you nailed Janeway, or boom, you nailed, Archer or Picard or Riker or whatever.
Yeah. So I think that Andrew, I can't remember his last name, but the guy who played Garrick on DS9, he wrote a DS9 official novel all about Garrick and his back ties, and like put him in there and just put all of his. It is one of the best because like I had understand, like, not that I don't love Garrick, but like it is like just what the actor brings to it and that world he created in his head. And then I go back and I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I totally get it, and he knew. I mean, obviously because he had played the character, but he remembered everything. Like when I grew up in the theater, and like I don't remember some of the stuff about some of the characters that I played, despite like spending months and months and months maybe with that character. I still don't remember all these details the way he did. So
I mean, I feel like though, like when you're doing theater, and that's a limited run, you're talking about a character that you're only going to know for a very short time. But these TV actors, like, there is
they
so
do it for
much
you.
that they bring to it. Like, so I recently saw something. So because I'm doing an Arrowverse rewatch while I'm crocheting and stuff, and like
Did
the
we say
Flash
this
is
would be
like,
shorter? We totally lied.
what?
Did we say
What?
this would be shorter? We
We
totally
did. We did.
lied.
Okay. We'll finish up after this comment. So I saw this thing so recently. So I'm a huge Flash fan. Like I love the Grant Gustin show. That's it. That's all I love. I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Carlos Valdez, who played Cisco Ramon, was literally like perfect. Like he was also inspiration for one of my characters in one of my books. Um, it came out like I saw a thing recently how apparently he when they were rehearsing for season 1 episodes before they got into the actual filming of it, Carlos Valdez would make names for the other actors, like give them like silly, goofy names. And like a big part of the show is that Cisco Ramon gives all the villains their like villain name. That whole character trait came out of Carlos Valdez as an actor goofing around with the other actors and the writers being like, this is too good, we're going to write this in. So I think the difference becomes like a stage play becomes very regimented, right? Like you have the characters, this is what they are, this is what they do, there's very little wiggle room, whereas a lot of times,
In
especially in the
in
first
the
season, you
writing,
have
right?
characters are very much influenced by their actors as well, which expands your character
Yeah,
characterization.
a stage play, you're doing a moment in time, but day after day after day, and it's that same moment in time over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And where the actor's craft comes in is the actor has to bring their day on stage with them, and then it's live. So like every time that other person has a bad day and you flub up, you still have to get yourself back on the script and you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So like the aspect of being live because you don't ever get another take, and I think the joy of being a TV actor is that you get to do it over and over and over again for years and years and years, and you get to stay in that character and grow with that character, and you're not stuck in just the one moment in time. It is an interesting observation. I agree
It
with you.
is. Um, but yeah, so I that's where I really like draw though a lot of my inspiration is from like those things that I see, and but like it's changing it, right? Like because you've seen Detective Pikachu. If you look at my Tim Griffin, yeah, I
I
mean you
did
can
not
probably
know
see.
until you said it. It didn't click. It didn't
Yeah.
click. But
I
now
mean,
that you
like,
said it, I will go
now that
back
I've
and now
said
I
it,
now have to
yeah.
go obsessively read. I have to go obsessively read the first 3 chapters before the 4th one drops on
I mean, you
Friday.
really do. I'm excited to finally be back in it. I'm also excited for the short story that I wrote the entire short story yesterday. It's like just under 2,000 words. It's very much like backstory for Allison, my Allison, not your Allison, because apparently we both have Allison because it's a fantastic name.
It's a great name.
It's a great name. It
Well,
is.
it's because
But
Alex
Allie was my OC from my Detective Pikachu fanfic. I really should send you my Detective Pikachu fanfic. It is one of my like greatest like loves. But Allie was my OC from that, and she was a cop, and like her character, I would say, has not evolved nearly as much as Tim's has, because Allie didn't need to evolve. She was already new to that world. She wasn't part of it originally. She was my whole creation. So she has not evolved in the same aspect as Tim has, if that makes sense, for my character inspiration.
Yeah, it does. All right. So, audience, obviously you can tell that Jen and I just get together and we just talk about things and
It's
we
fun.
can do
It's
this
cool.
literally all day. Um, T, we should have, you know what? Here's the thing. This should be
We
our
should
new
have
rule.
a poll. We should have a poll,
If we,
first of all,
yeah,
for a name. We need a poll for a
yeah.
name.
Yes. So if you have an idea for a name, put it down there, and then we're gonna poll our audiences for this. And maybe Jen, maybe our rule should be as like we each have a cup of tea, and the first, and we're not done until we're done with a cup of tea. I'm not quite done with mine yet. How
I'm
close are
not
you?
quite done with my tea either, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there too. I've got like I don't know, 3/4 of an inch of my tea left in my cup.
Yeah, something like that here too.
We've been
um,
sipping at the same rate.
yeah. I will say, do you know what one thing I do miss from like character inspiration, but also characterization of characters, is rewatching seasons of shows that were 24 episodes,
Oh yes,
and then
yeah.
comparing that to what we get now on Netflix, like maybe 8 episodes, and how you have to blitz through a storyline, and you don't get those like little moments, like it's just the 24 episode season. Like, I understand like the cost benefit of doing an 8 episode season, especially if you're using tons of CGI and blah blah blah. But my God, the characterization in like season one of Arrow alone. Now, granted, like it's teen angsty drama, but still, like, ah, mwah, you
Well,
know?
okay, but my favorite series is Psych, and that, like it's way back in those days too, where they were doing 20, 24 episodes a season. And, like Sean evolved as a character over the seasons, but like that first season he was so um he was brilliant, like it wasn't just the actor, it was like, like the writing was really brilliant there. And I just it's not that the acting isn't brilliant. When I was growing up, in 8 episodes, 2 hours a day, or 1 hour, or whatever, that was called a mini series, right? You had
Yeah.
4 2-hour episodes. It was called a mini series, and they were great and grand and everything that Netflix puts out. But what it wasn't was a show. It was like an arc. It was longer than a movie, and it was shorter than a series, and it was this special thing that you sat down and then gossiped with all of your friends about. And I still gossip about with all of my friends about stuff about these
Well,
things.
okay, but so that's something interesting. So when we were on the fanfic as a professional writer panel, we were talking about that because with your shift from these 12 to 24 episodes, let's even count those 12 episode seasons but you would get an episode weekly, not a 12 episode drop, right? You would have 12 to 24 weeks worth of word of mouth talking about it around the proverbial water cooler, um to hook people, right? And then now, so not only did your characters in those shows have like a longer time to not only have an arc but have those slow moments, and the slow moments, as a writer, we know that those slow moments are necessary to round out your character, to make them more full, to give them, I mean, first of all, they need a break, but second of all, like, those are those little moments that give your characters depth, right? Because, and I think we've talked about this too, like those little moments make up life. Like for us, like in real life, those little moments are what make up our lives. And so,
I mean, I started a whole novel with one, right? A whole
right.
novella with one.
But then if you shorten it to 8 episodes and you do a single drop, it gets out of the fandom mind so much faster, and you're not around the proverbial water cooler talking about the same show 6 weeks later. You're talking about a new show. And that's where we came in with the whole fanfic as a professional writer thing. Is like, it's fascinating how now even publishing industry has changed, being like, if you are a fanfic writer, you should hide it. Like, even a decade ago, that's what they would say, like, you should delete your account, you should hide the fact that you're a fanfic writer. To now, oh, you're a fanfic writer, you should talk about it and bring your fanfic audience that already loves your work to your original publishing side. And it's fascinating to see that shift, because fanfic in fandom has made almost a 180. I mean, it's still considered geeky, but it's also mainstream. And fanfic can keep properties going. Like, Gwen and I were talking about Danny Phantom is a great example of, wait,
Yes,
he's a phantom.
yes. I
um
love him.
because fanfic and fan events continue to this day. It's well over a decade since the series ended, right? Um, and it is still a thriving, active community, which is fascinating, because the characters have inspired so much, despite whatever um, controversies occurred with Butch Hartman. Because if I understand, there's been controversies with the
Yeah.
creator. Um, those characters inspired so much in the fandom to keep it alive to this day. If that makes sense.
But fanfic is nothing new. So let
No,
like to wrap this up, I would like to tell you that there are three
it's
series.
empty. I swear.
I am almost. Can't say.
I'm empty.
I'm like
It's
almost.
oh.
Um, but there are three series. There's the original series, and then there are two more incredibly famous, long-running series inspired by one brilliant piece of fiction. And that piece of fiction is mystery, and it's Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes and Watson, they did that, okay? And then you have your next iteration with that. Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings are definitely, like, if you see the mystery or read the Mysterious Affair at Styles, it is definitely Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. She just reskinned a little bit here and there, put them out in the country. I mean, it's definitely that. And then there's an argument to be made that Nero Wolfe and Archie Goodwin are just more. It's just another reskin of Watson and Sherlock.
Hmm.
Sorry, I can't speak. And then my favorite show, Psych. There are fandoms everywhere that say that Psych is is a reskin of Watson and Holmes. Like with Watson apparently being um, a pharmaceutical sales rep, which I love. Guys, this is amazing.
It's fine, and it makes sense, right? Because we're talking about character inspiration, and like, um, as I said at Capricorn, there's no way that, unless you have literally lived under a rock or on a deserted island for literally your entire life until this moment, that you're not inspired by something you have seen, witnessed, been a part of, family, friend. Like, there is literally no, like, any author or writer or even artist that is watching this. Like, there is literally, like, there is some inspiration that brought these characters to life, right? And like, it's okay that it's another character. Um
Agree.
or a real life person, or whatever, because like, we do take inspiration from everything in our lives. And I feel like when we do this again, like, because this is only a part one, there are other characters that we have that we can talk about their
Obviously, we don't know how to shut up.
we don't know how to shut up. Everyone knows I don't know how to shut up. So
For
yeah,
sure.
but I think that it's important to talk about the character inspiration, because I think for non-creatives, it is a mystery how these things come to be. Um, and
Or
that
people
it's
who want, or people who are wondering if they're creative. They tell themselves they're not creative, and they misunderstand what creativity is and how it comes in and how a creative processes it, and they
yeah.
don't understand it. and they are creative, they just don't know how to tap into it. Okay,
Right,
I'm officially done
and
with
like I want to put out there because like I am a fanfic writer, and clearly like Tim and lots of my characters have come originally from fanfic and are inspired by characters that are not mine, but you can tell that these characters have evolved. And so just because let's say you're a fan, you're like a fan of whatever show and you're writing something based off of like a certain character, that doesn't mean that they don't evolve and you're not creative, right? Like you are still doing that work and evolving them, and you're not just copying and pasting theoretically. Because even
you.
like let's say Arrow, like I used Arrow as an example, being a Batman clone. Um, it is so different though. Think about it. Batman, when he comes out of everything right at the beginning, he has only Alfred. He has no friends. I mean, he has friends, but he doesn't have friends. He doesn't have family left, blah, blah, blah. But like Oliver Queen, for example, at least in the iteration from the show, he comes back from the island after 5 years. He still has friends. He does build a network around him more so than I would say Batman does, because for the longest time, Batman, it's just Alfred, right? Like that's it. It's just Alfred until he gets like Robins and stuff coming in. But it's not the same. There is I think, a distinct characterization difference between them eventually.
There
Anyway,
is.
that's
All
a
right,
good place to end this, right? It's a good place to end
yes, I
this.
am officially out of tea,
So am
so
I.
okay, so we're done. All
So we
right,
are done.
love
We're
everybody. Yeah, I love everybody who showed up for us. Thank you so much for hearing us blabber incessantly about.
and come back next week. I feel bad because we didn't like really advertise this one like I did last week. I think we're planning to try to make this weekly if we can. Um,
Yeah, I like our lives are so crazy. Like we don't know that we can make this a promise, but
yeah,
next time
we'll
we'll
try.
try to prove something.
Yeah.
We'll train
So
people. We'll train
thank
ourselves, maybe. Maybe we'll
thank
get the
you
guys too.
everyone for watching this. If you are watching this, like when we email it out later, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to my podcast, thank you, thank you, thank you, and we will be back
And the
soon.
3 people who joined us live, especially thank you to you.
Yes, we love you.
Big love.
Because I'm
Big
a
love.
millennial. I will date myself.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.